So you keep seeing this comp playing in every lobby, and when you play it, for some reason, it's just not strong enough. That's where I, Exterior, come in to teach you the proper way to play Zoe Ahri Reroll. In this video, we'll cover the strongest items, strongest units, and strongest augments. Before we start, this video was made in patch 14.16, and if you're watching this when it's 14.16b, they did nerf Ahri a little bit, but I don't know if this would affect it too much because this comp is still very strong to play under the right conditions. So it'll be, instead of an S tier comp, it'll be probably an A tier comp after these nerfs. With that in mind, we're going to start off with our items, and then our main DPS is going to be either Zoe or Ahri, depending which one you want to do. Essentially, it's just mana items for both of them, which is blue buff, which is their best in slots. You kind of have to have at least one of them to have a blue buff, so you can have a lot of DPS on the board. And for Zoe's case, attack speed works pretty well on her, so having Nashor's Tooth will amplify her blue buff a lot, compared to Ahri, the way how she works. When she casts her ability, Nashor's Tooth won't help because attack speed doesn't really do much, since her ability shoots out an orb, and it takes years to come back. So Adaptive Helm will help during that duration, because the time she casts her ability, she'll gain mana back from Adaptive Helm. For both amplification items, Death Cap is really good for both of them. Good alternative items for Zoe if you cannot build a blue buff. Spirit Soldier is really good because she auto attacks a lot, so this item's pretty decent for her for that. And speaking of auto attack, Static Shiv is a good alternative for Nashor's Tooth if you want to debuff the board and shred all magic resists, so your AP units can do extra damage. If you can't build a Death Cap, Jewel Gauntlet is fine. Best alternative items for Ahri. Before I say best alternatives for Ahri, you have to have at least a blue buff or double Adaptive Helm so she can keep casting. If you don't have these, she can't function as a unit, but good alternative items for like Death Cap or the second Adaptive Helm would be like Merlicon, because you need anti-heal on the board. It's pretty good on her since she's kind of AoE-ish, since she hits like up to 2 or 3 targets at the same time. Archangel Staff is pretty decent alternative items for Adaptive Helm because this item allows you to gain more power over time, and if you can't build a Death Cap, Jewel Gauntlet is also fine as well. For the best Ornn artifact for Zoe, because she auto attacks a lot, Lich Bane's really good on her, and then so she can cast Infinite. Mana Zane's good for that. Zonias is a very high win rate on her, so take that if you can. For Ahri's case, DFG is very powerful on her because she's a high AP damage unit, so having this item will even amplify her damage even more. And Zonia, same thing like Zoe, high win rate, but the highest win rate item overall would be Ludens, because when she kills something, she has AoE on top of that. Even though her ability is AoE already, you just get even more AoE. For your main tank, it's gonna be Lilia, and you have default tank items like Bramble, Warmongs, and Declaw. If not, you could put other tank items such as Gargoyle Stoneplate, Redemption, or even Onyx Spark for magic resist shred if you don't have Static Shiv on Zoe. Her best Ornn artifact item hands down is Anima Visage. This item gives her a lot of healing in general, and it gives her a lot of MR. If you want money, Mogul's Mail is the way to go. It's basically like a Gargoyle alternative. And Suspicious Trenchcoat is a very good item overall because you get multiple Lilias on the board, so you have extra tank. If you get the Poppy Augment, which looks like something like this, then you want to put Bloodthirster or Sterix on her, plus 1 item. And then for best emblems for this board, it would be like Arcana Emblem, Bastion Emblem, or even Scholar Emblem. Best support items overall is Chalice, Big Gem for this comp specifically, but for meta items, it would be like Moonstone, Randuins, Banshees, Redemption, Bambi Cinder. All the support items are good, but this is pretty good overall for like the current meta. For the units you want to play at level 4, the main units you want to play would be Ahri, Zoe, Poppy, Lilia, and you want to 3-star all of them here when you hit level 4 and 5. If you want to win streak, the best items you can slam on like Zoe would be Static Shiv or even Spirit Soldier, but most of the time you don't want to win streak. You kind of want to lose streak to save money so you can 3-star all of these, but if you do decide to win streak, these 2 items are good on Zoe, and then the 2 items you want to put on Lilia, if you want to win streak with her, would be like Onyx Spark or Sunfire. This is the case for win streaking, not lose streaking. And for whatever reason, if you get these items, the best in slots would be like Blue Buff is the best one to start with, same with Death Cap, or a Warmongs or Steadfast Heart on your tank. The big thing to note is if you do have a Static Shiv, don't build Onyx Spark, vice versa. If you have Onyx Spark, don't build Static Shiv because they both do the same thing. You can also rush a Morolocon if you want to for anti-heal, but if you do get that, don't get Sunfire. And then when you hit level 5, you throw in Hecarim because you get +1 Bastion, which doesn't really do anything, but since these 2 are Bastions, you might as well throw him out. But the big thing, the reason why you want him is because he's an Arcana with Ahri. And the main reason why you want to 3-star the Zoe, Ahri, Poppy, and Lilia, because Arcana Ahri, if you put the selector on her, you get more AP on the board for the more 3-stars you have. So that's why it's very important to have 3 stars on the board as much as you can. If you don't know the best strat for this, it would be to not level at all at stage 2 because you want to stay level 4 right after Krugs, which is the last round, which is 3-1. It's the last round, you could be level 4. So you want to roll down all your gold that you have, like 60 or 50 gold, whatever how much you have, down to 30 gold for your units. The main reason why is so you can 3-star them easier later, and you have a high potential chance of finding 1-cost unit because it's a very high chance to find them when you're level 4 than you are level 5. And by the time you're level 5, then you want to save up to 50 gold gold, and slow roll, which is basically you keep rolling until you find copies of units, and you just roll down to 50 gold. Unless you're contested, then you hyper roll right after 40 or 50 gold for potential 3 stars. So you can power spike and try to like save HP and maybe win the game. By the time you're level 6, then you can throw in another Bastion, for example Tarek, so you can have 4 Bastion on the board, so you get more tank on the board. But if you have a Bastion spat, you can make Tom Kench into Arcana, so you have 3 Arcana on the board instead of 2. So you have more power with Ahri's Arcana selected, so you get more AP on the board. And about to hit level 7, you throw in a +1 Scholar, which would be Rise. And the reason why is because Rise and Tarek, you'll get Portal in, so it gives you some utility. And the main items you want to put on him is like anti-heal, since he's AoE, such as Merlicon or Red Buff. If you don't have items on Ahri or Zoe yet that has anti-heal, you can throw it on Rise. Or potential other AP items or attack speed items, you can throw it on Rise as well. The main thing to note here would be if you have a Scholar emblem, you could throw it on like whoever, like extra Bastion. The reason why is because you get 4 Scholar instead of 3 at level 7, which is a huge power spike. So it'll allow Zoe and Ahri to keep casting even more. And then if you hit level 8 for the base board, it would be throwing in Emilio for level 8 because it gives you 4 Scholar, 4 Bastion, and you get 3 Portal with Tarek, Rise, and Zoe. You also get 2 Fairy with Millia and Lilia. But if you have the spats like I said previously, then just throw in a +1 Arcana like Tom Kench or even a Xerath, because the more Arcanas you have on the board, the better. And speaking of Arcanas, when you hit level 9, just throw in the Xerath so you can get more Arcana on the board. The reason why is because you get more power with Arcana on the board. Things I'd like to note here is if you do get a Bastion spat, just take out the Tarek and put it in a Tom Kench instead so you get more Arcana, because Arcana is better in the long run than having splash rate like 3 Portal, since you do extra damage with Zoe and Ahri with it. So basically saying the more Arcana you have on the board, the better, as long as you have the basis of 4 Bastion and then 4 Scholar. And just throw a bunch of Arcanas as much as you can. If you can't find Milio, having Bard is okay. And then same thing of Tarek. If you can't find Tarek, just use Shen. It's okay, as long as you have the traits in. For the best augments to choose from, Spell Blades is the best ones you could choose for this comp, since it will give you extra power on the board. For every ability you cast, your next auto attack does AP damage. Higher Education is just good for Scholars overall. Combat Caster is just powerful at the moment, and it's also good for this comp because you keep casting a lot, and for every time you cast, you get a shield. Every Support Golem, like Support Golem 1 and 2, is very good because you get +1 item, or +2 if you get Support Golem 2, and support items are very powerful right now. But the thing is, they did nerf the Golem this patch, but it's still useful for the item. Learning the spell is good for AP overall, especially for early game AP comps, because you gain a lot more stacks of magic damage over time. Raid Boss is very good for your main tank, so they can get even tankier. Item augments such as Magic Wand and Big Grabback's very good for this comp, because you get more items on the board, meaning you can have multiple carries. And then speaking of items, if you want a perfect item, Pandora's 1 and 2 is good for this, but Pandora's 3 is kinda iffy. If you don't get it as first augment, then don't do it for second and third augment unless you really have to for Pandora's 3, because other people outspike you since you're wasting a prismatic augment on changing items. And you get your crest augments such as Arcana, Bastion, and Scholar, which is pretty good for this comp. And then since you have a lot of unique items, Item Collector is very good because it's just a meta augment overall, since you get a lot of power on your board. And since you're playing reroll, to finish off 3 stars, Prismatic Ticket, Hero Grabback, Pandora's Bench, Stars Are Born is very good for 3 starring. And since you play these 2 units anyways, for Witchy Wallop is basically the Poppy augment, or High Horsepower is the Lily augment. Since you're playing them anyways, it's pretty good to take these augments, since you can 3-star them easier this way as well. And that is it for my Zoe Ahri Reroll comp guide. If you have any questions, just let me know down in the comment section below. Until then, I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.